Cheers.
Welcome to the Steak Knife Show. I'm Tim Shindle. This is Jason Apt. Sean is in the background there, trapping his next victim. Well, previous victim? I don't know how you want to say that. But so we're interviewing Jason today. He is somebody who Sean has known for a long time. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Jason?
Hello, my name's Jason. I've been doing martial arts in some form or another since I was 8, 9, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, the 80s. Everybody's doing karate.
So is that where you started? You started in karate?
Yeah, like the old school traditional karate, like little kid with, you know, time belts and the gloves and all
the katas and everything like that?
All that stuff. And then I got into the military and started kind of training, and then I got into Muay Thai, then Jiu-Jitsu. Then we kind of met these guys and we kind of really started to dig deeper into like self-defense.
Okay.
And then, you know, I spent the last 8 years, I guess, just like really focusing on where that kind of traditional Muay Thai and the traditional, I say traditional Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but what is that anymore, you know, with the gi and no gi kind of going two different directions, you know, but kind of classic Jiu-Jitsu, I guess I'll say, right? And how that pertains to self-defense and what can you actually teach a normal person? Yeah. I say normal, like somebody who's coming to learn. Right. Like what can you really teach them that's gonna stick, gonna work? You know, we can spend, in realistic terms, with a person, can we spend 20 hours on one thing with one person? Like, to be good enough to maybe hit that if you need it, you know? So we're trying to streamline the process.
So it's not like, I know you have a depth of experience, but everybody I don't know. So like, they ran a self-defense program for 7 years? 7 years.
Yeah.
And there was about 2,000 some odd people who came through there, and there was some pretty consistent. So out of those people that came consistently, what's like a common denominator that you saw as one of the coaches that was like you said, how do you make that repeatable? How do you make them understand violence? Because violence is not a sure thing. You're responding to different things in that nature. So how do you form a curriculum to build that mentality?
You know what I think? That 1 is effective, 2 is fun to teach and learn and play with, and it really was our bread and butter, our fundamentals, the crash body lock. Okay. You know, because that's where everything's theory until you crash into somebody, right?
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Can I really slip this punch? If I block without gloves on, does those knuckles still slide right in between here? Yeah. Does it still slide right through here? You know, when you train people who have never really done any martial arts, that, look, if someone, no doubt, is gonna punch you in the face, they're gonna do something to you, they're gonna push you in the corner, they're gonna throw you in the van. Yeah. You cover your face and you slam into them and you lock them up. You drag them, you fight to the inside. It's harder to get hit. Now, are we gonna say, oh, you're never gonna get hit. This is gonna go perfect. You're gonna grab them and they're gonna fall like a little butterfly and float to the ground. Nah, man, we're gonna violently crash into them, lock them around their hips and their core, lift them just a little off their toes and run their ass over. Yeah. In essence, right? And I think that really set the tone for people's learning process. You know, because we would just take those big, big kick shields. Yeah, yeah. And we'd just make them cover up, rhino head, and slam into the shields, right? Yeah. And we'd kind of slap at them a little bit. Yeah. Right? Slap, boom, crash into this thing, like violence of action. Yeah. And it kind of set the tone for learning. And then we were able to, okay, now this fight's on the ground. Then we shifted mentality of like, cook them, smash them, turn their head, shoulder in the neck. You know, classic jiu-jitsu. Right. Right? Once I got this to the ground, you're not getting up. Yeah. and of course the awareness of other people and situations. We spent time on all that, but like, the question was, how do you get a normal person to get that mindset? And I think one of the best ways to do it is to just have them crash in something.
Yeah.
Cover your head, lock everything in place, and slam into somebody and grab them.
Well, that really speaks to the fact that people are inherently don't want to face that aspect of violence, is to get physically close to somebody. It's unnatural. It's either seen as intimacy or violence.
Yeah.
Like, so having that, like, hey, this is the first thing you're going to do. We're going to have you break the barrier. You're going to get close, and you're going to get in there, and then we're going to teach you how to make that repeatable, and we're going to teach you to make it dangerous.
Yes. So, we told, this is going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
This is going to be the opposite of how you think self-defense is going to go.
Yeah.
I get it. I love the old Jackie Chan drunken master. I love it.
Yeah.
And if you've trained 30 years at that specific thing, cool. Maybe you'll get that to work. But most people, it's just not happening. What is going to work? When somebody throws a punch at you, you cover up, lock them up, drag them down, and you choke them unconscious.
Well, and so that leads me to another question, not just like a little bit outside of self-defense. You're talking about like somebody training that drunken master, kung fu, karate stuff for 30 years. But how do you safely train that and not be a vegetable, essentially? Like, is there a way?
It's extremely difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'll just compare it to like Muay Thai, right? I went to Thailand a couple times, trained, and they don't spar hard. It's
I've heard that,
mitt work, pad work, and every day it's clinching.
Yeah.
I mean, they clinch hard every day. They're throwing each other. They're knee into the body. They're kind of letting you know that they can elbow you right in the face if they actually wanted to. But it's that hard clinch work that gives you that intimacy, like that.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing closer than like that Muay Thai clinch when like both heads are up and you're locking and pulling, and at any second this dude just needs to rotate his hand around to rip across and cut half your face off. So the same thing with kind of that. I've never trained in drunken master type of thing. You know what I mean? So
me either.
I know a lot of the harder martial arts, the boxing and everything, like especially now that the science has grown and evolved. There's legendary stories of like, Pat Milch's old gym. Every Friday was dudes getting just destroyed.
Yeah.
Every Friday. Big guys fighting the little guys.
Yeah.
Just beating the living shit out of each other. Bleeding, heads knocked in, concussions every Friday. And then you can't do that forever.
Yeah. You're not going to be effective after a certain point doing that.
Yeah.
Like that is.
And it's
balance, I think that speaks to the effectiveness of a program, like whether it be self-defense or martial arts in general. Like, how do you keep training this? Like, how do you stay on the mats forever to make yourself effective in movement? Like, there is thoughtfulness to what you're talking about. So it has to be like that balance. Like, you can do some striking, but like, can you do it hard all the time? No. Or you'll end up just completely off kilter.
Yes.
So
I agree completely.
So what kind of like drove you into wanting to teach self-defense? What was there a moment, or was it just kind of like something that happened organically?
Yeah, it's something that happened. I had worked at Columbus State for 8-10 years, something like that. And I had worked with another guy who did jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
And we had always kind of thrown around the idea of maybe we should start a club.
Yeah.
And he left, and that idea kind of went away because really, Columbus State did next to nothing for clubs, and it was just a lot of responsibility for something that, we all train somewhere. It's like, why just go to the gym?
Yeah.
But then I met Devin, and then we realized Sean also trained at Ronin.
Yeah.
And we're all like in the same building essentially.
Yeah.
And so we kind of got together, started training, and then the chief was behind us in line, and we're talking about training. And he was like, "Why don't you guys just start a program?" Because he's very kind of forward in that idea of, it's community building, like a co-sponsored law enforcement, along with my department, which was the Department of Recreation and Wellness.
Okay.
Like a co-sponsored thing to like, that was, you know, I don't want to say, at least we're looking for ways to have better relations with the communities.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, and you know, he was forward thinking in that of like, you know, but truth is most of the officers didn't really want anything to do with it. John and Devin obviously were the only ones. A couple, don't get me wrong, there was support, there was help, things like that. But as far as like really building the relationship with law enforcement, it didn't really kind of pan out like it was supposed to. Mm-hmm. But it built it was great for us.
Yeah.
Like, no, not the Cologne State Department, anything really. It was people came from all over the city. It was free.
Right.
You didn't have to be a student. You didn't have to do anything. Nothing really builds community like blood, sweat, and tears, right? And no matter what it is, like they talk about it in the military, you talk about it in law enforcement. I think that martial arts is one of the closest you can get to that brotherhood of military or law enforcement, and it's through the pain and the anguish and the defeats and the wins and all of it.
And that's something that speaks to me. Like I've been in the military and stuff like that, and like that hard training is like what bonds you to each other as a group. Yeah. And no matter what, like cross branches, like whatever else, you're like, oh yeah, that's hard. Like, and everybody understands that. So it's like you bring it onto the mats and like, oh, this is hard, but I can do this every day. And like I can get stronger, I can get fitter, and I can understand my body better. And then you, like you're saying, like you take that out to the community and you give it to the regular person who has never experienced anything martial, like at all. And then you're showing them that they are athletic or that they have the potential to be athletic and protect themselves. And that can give them a whole new vision on like what they're capable of.
Yes. So the one thing that I take away from that is we helped a lot of people build confidence. Mm-hmm. You know, we got some wallflowers coming in there. You know, they're freshmen in college. Maybe high school hadn't been the best experience for them, as anybody who's been to high school knows. It's not always, you know, rainbows and sunshine. Yeah. But through, you know, we really attempted to make it very open and friendly. And I think that's important. Mm-hmm. It's your community, your coaches, your environment is everything. As a person who's been doing this for a long time, like I've trained in the Cobra Kai. Yeah. You know, the new guy gets jacked up. Yeah. You know, anybody that gets out of line, the instructors had tooling on them. You know, that in those places, I'm not saying they can't build a champion, but it's few and far between, and it comes with a lot of pain and anguish for everyone involved. Yeah. You know, no one typically ends a career in those places happy about the years they've spent there. You know, where you have hobbyists and martial artists that have lifelong friends. They have weekly, monthly, some dinners where they go out, they hang out, they build community, you know, and whether that's jiu-jitsu or Thai or whatever. I feel like jiu-jitsu is the best for community. Yeah. You know, you can go anywhere, right? Like if I ever get a job somewhere, or my wife gets a job in another state, first thing I'm doing is like, what jiu-jitsu schools are there? Right? Exactly, like, okay, I'll go here. And like, I can make a couple of friends. Yeah. Like, I'm not trying to rebuild a whole life community, but I can go make a couple friends.
We can make it, they have that instant connection. Like, you know, you have physical proof on your waist that like shows, like when you walk into a gym, like I've been doing this for a while. Yeah. Like I'm like, you're a purple belt, so you like walk in like, oh, he's a purple belt, and then they touch you and they'll be like, oh no, he's a purple belt. All right, I gotcha. Like, so
Maths don't lie,
right? Yeah, exactly. Like you figure that out very quickly about like who's been training and who hasn't, and like it does build that bond because you go in, you prove it on the mats, and then you have conversations and have fun. Like I haven't been training in this environment as long as you guys have, but I've met some of the people that I've been closer with than in years on the mats. Like just because like I see them consistently, like we all have a common goal, like get together, have fun, train, and then like we do stuff outside of that. Like this. This was born out of training jiu-jitsu. Like,
absolutely. Yeah. I think it was Renzo Gracie, and I'm sure I'm going to butcher the quote, but it's, you know, what do you say? There's more philosophy on a jiu-jitsu mat than there is in most Ivy League universities. more true thought, discourse, philosophy of the ins and outs, the backs and forths of ideas.
Yeah.
And it's people who are willing to work, to fight, to go hard, and aren't afraid to disagree.
Yeah.
You know, like disagreement is part of life.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, that's what fighting is. That's a real hard disagreement.
Yeah.
We are disagreeing at the fundamentals of something. And this is about to turn into this.
Yeah.
You know, so of course in our discourse we can have those disagreements. And I also think that personality, I think your personality comes through in your jiu-jitsu. Especially the longer that I've done this.
Yeah.
You know, like it really is an expression. Even though, you know, some people are wizards in areas. And most of those people, what you find out are actually kind of thought process technical in their real life.
Yeah.
You know, and then you got smashers. And a lot of those people are smashers in their real life.
Yep.
Now, there's always room for ebbs and flows into this and that, especially mood.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
Like, you know, you show up in a shitty mood, you may be a little bit more of a smasher, or you may be a bystander.
Yeah.
You know, it comes through like your daily life, your active life. But I really do think personality kind of comes through in most martial arts.
That's very true. I mean, I've seen it on the mats, like depending on the person I'm rolling with. Like if I know them pretty well, like I can kind of dictate like what their style is going to be. And I'm sure the same is true, like you said, like if once you roll with somebody long enough or know them, like you're like, oh, okay, like that's why he probably rolls like that. Like his control is there because he's like trying to control everything, or they're not, or they're smashing, or they're literally an artist with it.
Yep.
Like I've met people like that, like they're just an artist with like what you're doing, and you're like, and it works. Like what?
Yeah.
So
I guess I haven't really thought about it too much, but
yeah.
A little loose and fast and okay with the ups and downs, I guess.
There you go. Yeah. Kind of got to read those ups and downs.
Yeah.
I think I'm out of questions. But
Okay.
Thank you for talking to me. Jason Apt, you got anything to say to the camera?
Not really, man. Just go train.
All right. It's the woo. Holla.
All right, thanks, man.
Thank you.